Hello, and welcome back to the Blogger Genius podcast. I'm your host, Jillian Leslie, co-founder of MiloTree. MiloTree is a platform that helps bloggers, creators, and online entrepreneurs sell digital products, grow their email lists, and build their social media audiences. And I am so excited to announce that we now offer a free plan at MiloTree. This means you can set up a free digital product, a free freebie, and a free social media pop-up to add to your site. And this is completely free forever, no credit card needed. We believe everyone should be selling digital products, growing their email list, and building their social media following in 2025. This is the future of business on the internet. And with our free plan, you can start doing all of this today. It's so easy. You'll never look back, and we really want you to succeed. Go to milotree.com now to sign up and start growing your business effortlessly. Today, I'm thrilled to have Rebecca Shostak, co-founder of Flodesk, as my guest. Now, many of you in my audience already use Flodesk as your email service provider, and Flodesk is one of the many email service providers MiloTree integrates with. But for those of you just starting out, I just want to explain what an email service provider is and why you need one. An email service provider is a tool that helps you send emails to a large group of people, like your audience or customers, all at once in a professional, organized way. This is also where you store the email addresses you collect. With your email service provider, you can create beautiful emails, segment your audience so you're sending the right message to the right people, automate follow-ups, and track how your emails perform. If you have an online business today, you definitely need an email service provider. So in today's episode, Rebecca shares her journey from designing for top music acts to building Flodesk, a platform revolutionizing email marketing for small businesses. So here are 3 topics we cover in the episode. 1, how Rebecca and her co-founder identified the gap in the email marketing space and launched Flodesk to make email simple and beautiful. 2, the importance of simplifying your business and why less is truly more, both in email design and overall strategy. And 3, Rebecca's top strategies for converting social media followers into engaged email subscribers. Now, if email marketing feels overwhelming to you, this episode will provide insights and actionable advice to get you started and excited about the power of your inbox. So without further delay, here is my interview with Rebecca Shostak. Rebecca, welcome to the Blogger Genius podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And I love talking about email. It's obviously my favorite topic to discuss. But just to share a little bit about my background and how Flodesk came into existence. When my first job out of college, I actually got hired at a company to design the merchandise for top bands like Rihanna and Linkin Park and Sheryl Crow. But I was just fresh out of school, and it was such an exciting job to have. And at that point, I started to design for a lot of different types of brands. And I fell in love with this idea of producing designs and branding and marketing materials for lots of different types of, brands, and I guess you could say businesses, right? Because each musical act is kind of a business in itself. And then after that, I got into creating templates for wedding photographers. And I had 2 businesses that sold templates online. One when I started and sold, and another one I started again, which was a membership site selling templates to help professional photographers run their business. And I had things like pricing guides and branding guides and kits for selling clients on all of your upsell packages for wedding photographers. And one of my top selling templates were MailChimp templates, because so many people were requesting email templates. And I put out a lot of them. And I remember I would publish them and people would love them. They would buy tons of them. And then the next day, almost like clockwork, I would get all of these support emails with all caps in the subject line saying, like, I want a refund, give me my money back on these MailChimp templates. Because what they were Photoshop files and text files. So you would create a nice graphic in Photoshop, export it, and then copy and paste the text. But MailChimp was so difficult to use that my customers were infuriated that they couldn't implement these templates they purchased. So anyway, I had a lot of refund requests with that. And this was about back in 2012, 2013. And at that point, I was like, okay, the email industry has obviously got some things to sort out because there's this huge demand for small businesses to be able to market themselves in the inbox with beautiful branding. But no email service provider was enabling that. But I was like, nah, that's a problem for someone else. Like, it's too big for me to solve. Like, I come from Silicon Valley and I know how much work it is to run a tech company. Somebody else is going to figure this out. Right. And so I thought that back in 2012 and 2013, and then the years kept going by, and I kept seeing these issues in the inbox. And I was like, okay, well, somebody's got to do something about this. Like it's becoming 2016, 2017. There's still no email service provider on the market coming on to provide sort of like the Squarespace, I guess, of email. A lot of people have used that term actually to describe Flodesk. And I'm thinking like, wow, somebody has to come and solve this problem. And that's when I met my business partner, Martha, my co-founder, and she was working at the time at a company called Honeybrook, which is CRM for photographers and small businesses. And she was seeing the exact same problem where she was working with these top influencers who were making millions, beautiful blogs, beautiful websites, beautiful social media, but their emails, like quite frankly, sucked. And so she and I got together and started talking about this. And I was like, Martha, this has to be solved. And she's like, yeah, let's do something about it. So we decided to build the company. And here we are today, launching in 2019. And over 80,000 people, paid members on Flodesk now, and we've had hundreds of thousands of people trying it, and it's just been this crazy ride. So I think it's funny how we identified this sort of pain point that gave us hints that we could be onto something when we first were conceiving the company and coming up with the idea for it. Her from the perspective of Honeybook and me from my template shop. And I think we were onto something. So
Absolutely.
that was really exciting.
I think of you guys as the Pinterest of email marketing. Like Pinterest, came on the scene, and our first blog is called Catch My Party. And we were right there at the right time because it's beautiful photos on Pinterest. And I felt like it was so funny because my husband, right at the beginning of Pinterest, he would watch me on Pinterest looking at things like shoes that I was never going to buy. But he was like, what is this strange behavior that you're doing on Pinterest? And if I shared this with any woman, they'd be like, oh my God, I love this. And I feel like Flodesk has kind of a similar vibe. Like we didn't know we needed Pinterest, women especially, for like cupcakes and wedding dresses. And that's how it started. I know Pinterest is a lot bigger, but it's almost like you tapped into that same vibe that we didn't know we needed, but was like right there for the taking.
Yeah, Martha and I like to say that it was hidden in plain sight because to us it was so obvious, but it was also like for some reason it wasn't obvious to the industry. Like that there were a lot of players, like legacy players, and obviously MailChimp still dominates the market. And honestly, we think the world of MailChimp, they've built an incredible product and an incredible business. But it was a pain point that was relatively hidden, I think, and there were a lot of business owners who actually wanted to use email but couldn't even do it because the legacy tools were so difficult and so ugly that they were put off by the idea of even having an email list. So I think not only have we pulled market share from other players in the market, but I think we also kind of created our own market. Like we created a demand for something that was almost not there before.
And it's funny because philosophically, our product MiloTree and Flodesk are very similar in that we optimize for ease, like you guys. You can start on Flodesk so easily. In fact, I was sharing this before we pressed record. With MiloTree, of course, we integrate with all major email service providers like MailChimp and MailerLite and Flodesk and ConvertKit and blah, blah, blah. And we used to say, hey, if you don't have an email service, like email services can be overwhelming. We used to recommend another service, and now we're like, hey, sign up with Flodesk. Like your business probably is not, it's like, I hope one day, I say this to people about MiloTree. I don't know if you say the same thing. I hope you outgrow us. I hope you are so successful that you can hire a team of 30 people to build out your own bespoke solution that technologically for your business. But in the interim, use our product. And I feel the same way about Flodesk. Yeah, like you might not be for all of the tech bros out there who want to like do crazy stuff, but chances are, like you can get in there. It feels really good. It's easy to use. So I do feel like you've made email pleasurable.
Oh, I
That
love
sounds
that. I love the
dirty,
way
by the way. I don't mean it dirty. I mean like just it feels nice. And that's, so I say kudos to you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I actually love the way you framed that. And I think we've heard that a lot from our audience that emails actually become an enjoyable task for them instead of this arduous thing that influencers are telling them they need to do for their business. And it's like pulling their hair out to try and get it done. But yeah, I agree. And I think when we came on the scene at the beginning, we were hyper focused on like the small business market and making sure that we stayed super simple and had just the basic features that people needed to get started with email marketing. But since then, we've grown so much. And so now we're still extremely dedicated to simplicity, but we are building out the features now to help people grow with us as they grow their business. So I think at one point in time, we were sort of known as like the solution for people just starting out. And I think that we're starting to expand and we're starting to attract even more businesses from different verticals than we've seen in the past, which is really exciting. And
That's so
obviously, like our mission, yeah, like our mission has always been to enable businesses to grow. And we want, and we want to see them grow, which is, for example, why we have our pricing plans the way they are, which doesn't punish you as your list gets bigger. So no matter how much you grow, you can stay on Flodesk and we're not going to charge you more. So
I
I
love
think everything, sorry, everything about everything about how we've structured the business is designed, I think, hopefully to have our interests most aligned with our customers' interests.
Yeah. And one thing though, like my husband is my partner, David, and people will say request features for us. And I don't know if you guys do this, but we interrogate each other and the feature to go, do we need this? Should we build this? Like we don't just go, yeah, oh my God, that's awesome. And a lot of times there will be a feature that we could build easily, but to explain how it works to people is so complicated that we're like, nope, we're not building it. Like we like are very tough when it comes to expanding our product, just to expand our product. And I don't know if you face that same tension.
We absolutely do. And I actually think it's one of our hallmarks and the reason why we are Flowdesk, right? Because one of our biggest brand design and building philosophies is not what can I add, but what can I remove? And every time that we go to add new features or to add robustness to the platform, we actually do a holistic 360-degree inventory of not only the feature, but what that feature could affect by adding it and make sure that if there's going to be complexity added in the feature, can we reduce complexity in the UI? Can we solve the problem in a different way? And I think that that's been one of the hallmarks of how we build, and we try to be very strategic about that. And like a great example of that is that we just released what we're calling link actions, which is basically a click to segment functionality. We had so many people over the years saying like, we want tagging, we want tagging. So our incredible product team went through an exhaustive study of exactly what is tagging? What does that actually mean when our members ask that? And it completely varied. It went from anything from more robust segmentation to having a second layer of data. And mostly just people wanted that click to segment feature. And so we did this huge amount of research and came up with the best and most simple way to address the pains of the member without bloating the software. So we didn't actually add tags, which would have been a separate data layer, but we added a very robust click to segment. You can also remove from workflows, add to workflows, and adjust your subscribers like metadata based on how they click.
And what
and
I was just going to say, what I think is so robust about this for people listening going, well, you guys are talking about like technology, but it's so true in your own businesses. It's like, I believe the simpler you can be, the better. You find some pain point, and I can't tell you how many guests I have on my show who talk about how they've added their funnels are so complicated. And it's only when they take a step back and start going, oh my God, what am I doing here? How can I simplify this? How can I communicate in the fewest words possible what I do, who I help, and what problem I solve? Like, I am ruthless with like my red pen going through and going like, why do we have this? Like, we don't need this. And so I say, take that red pen to your own business and see what can you remove so that you become so clear on your on your mission, on your message, on the problem you solve. And while technology definitely is your friend with an online business, it can also be your nightmare. Like, if you've got all of these pieces that have to come into play and you are so frustrated and overwhelmed, I'm going to say go take a red pen to your business and get really simple.
I fully agree with that. And on top of that, I think there's this feeling, this almost feeling of FOMO that if especially small business owners, if they're doing something and it feels easy or simple, they're almost worried that they're missing out, like they're not doing enough. And it's like there's this hole in their mind where they're like, oh my goodness, I've just simplified my workflows. Or in our case, I'm using Flodesk and it feels so easy. There must be something missing. I must be not doing the right thing. And I don't believe that at all. In fact, I think that when you have clarity of mind, clarity of mission, and like clarity of what you want to do in your business and who you're going after and who you're targeting, your messaging becomes very simple, your
Mm.
funnels become very simple. And obviously there are a lot of very successful businesses who have intricate funnels and they're almost like a Rube Goldberg machine, right? Like moving people from one path to the other and to the sale and to the upsell. And I think that's very important, but I think most businesses just starting out don't need that kind of complexity. And once they do, you have the resources to hire a team.
Yes. And in
Yes.
fact, I feel like if you are building out your funnel and you have not found success in your funnel, it's kind of like when people talk about then we're going to run ads to our business. And I'm like, no, like ads are just an accelerant to a business that's already working. You got to make sure it's working first before you throw gasoline on it. Because if there's no match, there's no thing that lights it, you're just throwing gasoline on something that's not going to light up. So it's always about that level of clarity. But I want to switch just gears a little bit to talk about email, to talk about how you see when you started, back in say 2018, 2019. I feel like that was when email for small businesses, which is predominantly what my audience is, was like a nice to have. Yeah, you need an email list, but you're not quite sure what it's for. And maybe you're going to send newsletters with your newest blog posts, things like that. And I feel like email has become much more crucial for your business today than it ever has.
I mean, like my whole spirit is singing like heck yes. I couldn't agree with that more. And I feel like I was lucky in that I was introduced to email actually very early on in my career. So when I started my second template shop, at the time there were a lot of companies that were sort of like Groupon clones going around and doing these group deals where you would offer a certain product for some insane discount off and then you would make up the difference in volume. And there was one for professional photographers and they would invite me to sell my templates on them. And the way that they made all of their they drove traffic to their website was through this massive email list. They must have had like 400, 500,000 photographers on it, which were highly targeted, and the products were highly tailored so there was already a really strong market fit and conversion funnel on the website. But they would blast out the email at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and 30 minutes later, we were making $50,000. Like it was magic. It was crazy. And I was like, wow, this is an incredibly powerful medium. And anyone who doesn't use this for their business is completely missing out. And that was pre-social media. That was before all the discussions about the algorithm. So now you fast forward to 2024, we're talking about almost 15 years later. I think email is even more relevant than it was because not only is it the highest driver of conversion, and on average, email gives you, for every dollar that you spend on email marketing, you average about $40 in return on investment, which is a crazy stat in itself. But think about it this way. Your audience has a 3 to 5% chance of seeing a social post on social media that you put out there. Compare that with the inbox, or if you have a highly engaged audience, like at the minimum, you're looking at a 30 to 80% open rate on like smaller, super engaged lists and some larger lists as well. So we're talking about like massive double-digit gains of eyeballs on your content and engagement with your content in the inbox. So while social media is sexy and it's fun and it's cool and it's addictive and everyone's on it, it's very deceptive, and that there's like such a low chance of people seeing your posts. It's almost like one of those claw games, you know, when you go into the arcade and you're like,
Yes, that's
oh,
good. Yes.
almost, what
Oh,
if
yes.
misses? And if you're diligent with your list, like it is work to grow your list. Like it does take effort to convert your social media following and grab subscribers, but like, we can go into tactics if you want about how to grow your list. But you have such a higher chance of people engaging with your content, and you're able to add buttons and graphics that send people directly to whatever it is you're trying to promote. So it's just this incredible driver of traffic. Like if you, it's social media is like if you took a hose and put your thumb on it, and like your content kind of sprays everywhere, and you hope that somebody gets a little wet. And then with email, it's like taking your thumb off the hose, and you just shoot your message out, and it gets received by a large portion of your audience. And I just think that's so exciting. And there's been so many naysayers about email over the years. Oh, it's irrelevant, Gen Z doesn't love it. Gen Z is like 40% more bullish on email than millennials. I mean, it's crazy. So all the naysayers and people who say you don't need an email list, like in the past it was very important, and now it's critical. Like you can't afford not to have a list. Like you can't rely on social media. It is true that algorithms shift overnight, and even on top of that, just with how current things stand, you have such a low chance of people seeing your content. It's like you need a backup. You need something that's going to get like almost guaranteed get in front of your audience, get them to engage, get them to see your message. Like you can't afford not to.
Given that we've launched the MiloTree free plan, where you can offer a freebie to grow your email list totally free with no credit card required, it is time for you to get started. So first, you need a freebie. Great. Grab my 3 AI prompts that will create an irresistible cheat sheet in your niche. So you can get this at milotree.com/freebie prompts. Then create the cheat sheet. Head to milotree.com, set it up, upload it to our platform, create your opt-in page, then share that opt-in page everywhere so you can start growing your email list on steroids and for free. Again, grab the prompts at milotree.com/freebie prompts and then go set up your free account at MiloTree. And now, back to the show. I don't go to Instagram to purchase. Maybe it's way top of my funnel, but I'm not in a mood. Like I never buy like that. Now I know with TikTok and stuff, and I'm older, so maybe I'm just like not like the teens who can just be like, I want that lipstick or whatever. However, I do like just behaviorally, if you're on my email list, like chances are I invited you onto my list, and therefore like we're in a relationship and the whole vibe is different. I speak to my subscribers so differently than I do on social media, only because I kind of feel like, well, I don't exactly know you. Whereas in my email list, I'm like, hey guys, and I always share something like little and personal. Like today I went to the sauna and I feel really good. You know, I'm not going to share that on social media, but because I feel like people are like along for the ride, I'm more apt to talk about, and I shared this with you, like I'm almost about to be an empty nester, and it feels really bittersweet. And I'll write that just a sentence or two, but I feel like the people on my email list are my friends and they trust me. And like, I love it when they email me back. Like, it's a whole different thing in my business than spouting out my message and trying to seem relatable and making sure I have the right filter, all of that stuff. So for me, email feels more relaxed, much more like I'm talking to a friend.
I totally agree with that. I think that there's like an intimacy in the inbox that you don't get on social media. And I think that that comes from the fact that people like went to great pains to give you something very personal, right? Their email address. And I always like to say the when people opt into your email list, it's transactional in the sense that their email address is something valuable, it's something
Mm.
personal, and people are more and more hesitant now to give out their email address because of privacy concerns. So if somebody gives you their email address, that's a really big deal. That means that they like you, they're excited enough about what you have to offer and your brand that they're willing to give you something very personal of theirs in exchange for you hopefully providing them value in the inbox, whether it's in the way of like updates or personal newsletters or discounts or free shipping or however you use your list. And I also think that email is so versatile, right? Like you can do anything from showcasing products to writing this really plain text email that's like a personal letter from your heart. Um, you can drive people to a lot of different places. Like if you're a blogger, you can have lots of different blog posts. I love subscribing. I see a lot of food bloggers actually using Flodesk these days, and I see a lot of recipe roundups in email so that you can have a lot of pieces of content in there. I just think it's a really dynamic and exciting medium that allows you to build that relationship, as you said, with your subscribers, and talk to them in a way that you just can't on social media, which is like the public square.
So let's talk about then your best strategies for taking, let's say, people who find you on social media and transitioning them into subscribers.
Absolutely. Oh, I love talking about this. So, actually, one of the things that we recently released was our link in bio form. So we actually have a product now in Flodesk that's completely free, that allows you to have a link in bio and design it with all of your favorite Flodesk design tools and make it look super on brand and gorgeous, custom fonts, all that. But it puts your opt-in form at the top of the page so that the first thing that people do is go and subscribe to you and then they see the links. But it really allows our members to put list building first. And so we recommend, for example, putting that in your link in bio. And we've seen people have incredibly, like surprisingly high conversion rates off of that. So that's just like one really quick thing that you can do right now if you're currently using a link in bio, or even if you're just using Instagram's regular links, like try using one of our social forms or link in bio forms and pop that in to start growing your list. The other thing is, again, we're talking about the idea of people giving you their email addresses and it being transactional in the sense that they think they're getting value in exchange for giving you something that they value. So offering something of value, right, as people opt in, I think is really important. So like giving away a freebie, if you're a blogger, like obviously maybe you have like a special blog post or special content that you know has performed really well with your audience, but you could make that private and only deliver it if people opt in, so they're getting something secret and feel like that's really valuable. You could create a free PDF or e-guide of, like, say if you're a travel blogger, of your favorite destinations or a guide to a city. Like it sounds like you would be making a guide to Portugal.
Exactly. I would get it in a second.
Exactly. You know, if you're a food blogger, like your favorite recipes, you can give those away for free. You can hold a contest. We just actually released spin the wheel forms, which I think are really fun. So you can have people spin the wheel in exchange for like a discount. Obviously, the most classic list building, if you have something to sell, is like a coupon code, right? And I always say you want to give at least 10% off because anything under 10% isn't perceived as high value. But coupon or free shipping, absolutely classic, very high converting tactic to build your list. Um, Giving away like a free video or a mini course, or having people take a quiz and then give their email address. We just integrated with Interact Quiz. So if you have a quiz list building, then you can bring your subscribers right into Flowdesk. So there's so many ways, but I think the most important thing is to have the right mental framing for how you're going to collect subscribers. And that is like, what do I uniquely offer? What's something special that I have, like a most asked question, a top piece of content, a secret that I've been holding back from my audience that I know people consider valuable, a discount, a free product, anything, and offer that in exchange for signing up for your list.
I love all those ideas. And the only thing I would add to that is I like to think about, especially for my audience, they're typically experts in something. Maybe they're also selling stuff and want coupons, but it's like, okay, again, going back to what problem do you solve? And then how can you break that problem down into increments that you can then sell as products? But what is that first step? And how can you make it something you solve that's delicious? Meaning, whoa, it's easy. And I just got real value from this. Like, I really like you. Whoa, you've, solved something. So it's not like a 30-page ebook, let's say, that feels good, but like, I'm never going to consume that. Like, what can you consume right away? Like a discount code. Oh my God, you just gave me this discount. Guess what? I'm going to go shop and buy something with it. And if you can, like lean into what you were talking about, like the secret. Hey, you're part of this secret group of people. Like, I want to be part of a secret group of people. Are you kidding me? Like, the more exclusive it can feel, like it's all about the feelings that you're offering. So instead of it feeling like this is good for you, like we're going to give you a vitamin, like it needs to have that element of like, whoa, I got to get this. I got to get this now. So that's how I emotionally like to think about some way to attract somebody, again, to give up something of value. When you're running ads on Facebook, if you can like get an email subscriber for $1, that's a really good deal. Like sometimes people will pay much more per subscriber. So that email address is really valuable. So I say it's worth experimenting with a whole host of options to see what's working.
I totally agree with that. And you know what? I actually think too, when you're on that journey to find out what's working for your audience, I always think it's best, right, to involve the audience in the process. So one of my favorite things that I see businesses do when they're just starting out and trying to figure out that lead magnet, that way of getting people in the door with their email list, is to actually pull them, right? Like call a friend, text your friends, or ask a poll on social media, or send out, like a one-on-one email to people that you know are in your target audience and say, hey, what would excite you if for me to offer? Like, what can I put out there that would make you wildly excited to sign up for my list or even pay money, right? And like, if you can find something that people are super excited about and would actually pay you for, give away half of it as an email opt-in and then sell the other half after
Mm-hmm.
you've nurtured them on your list. Something like that
Mm-hmm.
would be perfect. I've heard a lot of people doing that. Like, for example, they made an ebook and then they were trying to sell the entire ebook, but they were gating it behind a paywall. So you had to pay for the entire thing and nobody was biting. And then all of a sudden they cut it in half and they give the first half away for free if you sign up. And then the next half if you pay for it. And that's been really successful. And actually, like even Amazon and Kindle use that tactic, right? You can download a sample of a book, but then if you get hooked on the book, they know exactly where to put the paywall up so that you go and purchase the entire book. So I think there's so many great ways to grow your list, and it really comes down to what your audience wants to hear from you. But it's really easy to find out too. Just talk to people. You don't need to
No,
guess.
no, as a designer. So like I feel like my weakness is design. Like I have a designer that I work with and I tell her all the time that like I'll go into a template and mess it up because I start changing everything and then all of my fonts end up enormous. Like I cannot make them big enough. And then I'm like, and then I literally have to like delete everything and start over. So one thing she shared with me that I use now all the time, she's like, pick one font and use it in different versions of the same font. Like for you as a designer, because you can look at something and be like, I know what beautiful is. And like it just makes sense to you. But for people like me who do not have that gene, it's intimidating. So if I come to Flodesk and go, all right, I want to make something beautiful or just not be embarrassed by my design, do you have any heuristics like, hey, you know what? Don't worry about this. Do this or use a template, but don't change this much or whatever. Like, what would you say to get somebody past their design fears? Because everything you do is
I,
so beautiful.
Oh, well, I love that question. And I think, we have a lot of templates that are completely pre-made for you from the design all the way to the copywriting. So if you are a little bit design phobic, just like jump in there, right? And and work with the fonts and the templates as they stand. Pick something that you feel either speaks to your brand or your use case, and then tweak it a little bit. But if you're a little more ambitious and want to get in there with the designing, consistency of typography, like you mentioned, so using 1 to 2 fonts maximum, and then adding spacing between all of your content are
Mm.
already 2 huge wins towards making something feel really good in the inbox or anywhere really when you're designing. So I love adding a lot of white space to my work. And I think a lot of our templates are very spacey. And that helps break up content. So when people read it in the inbox, it's easy on the eyes, easy to tell your story visually. And then I think another one is like I tell people like keep your content short. I see so many emails that could have been 5 different emails that were spread out across like 2 months, right? Because it takes so much work, especially if you're a blogger, to get those posts up. Like I know how much work goes into it. I used to have a blog. And you don't need to put like a massive amount, like a month's worth of content into a single email. You can keep it super short and snappy. And even just by keeping your content short and not feeling like you have to design this like massive thing that goes on for miles and drives traffic to 10 different places, like just keeping it super short is going to already make your email feel lighter weight and more compact, easier to read, easier to get your message across and look better. So I think
Mm.
those 3 things, like consistency of typography and your brand colors, if you want, we make it really easy to bring in your colors and your logo, even adding like a little handwritten personal signature at the bottom. So consistency across all of design elements, which you don't need to be a trained designer to use. Just don't, like resist the urge to
Oh, you should
go
see
wild in
where
the
my
font panel.
designs left on my own. You should see, like, oh my God, I like this font, but I like this font. And you know what I mean? And then, like, weirdly, everything gets big. And then I step back and I go, oh no, what did I do? How did I end up here when I started with this really nice design? So, anyway, so these are good pieces of advice. And I love, especially the one of less is more, especially in email, especially because like I might write this on my laptop, but the reality is people are reading this on their phones.
In this environment, like in our era, you have like 1 to 3 seconds if you're lucky to catch people's attention, right? Like you're competing for attention with like TikTok and Twitter and Instagram or X or whatever it's called now. And like you don't have the luxury of blabbing out like 10 miles long content and expecting people to read the entirety of it. Like if you're a blogger and you produce amazing blog posts, like people are going to be really excited about that content, but save that content for your blog. Just use your email to drive the content, to drive the traffic to the blog. And keep it really short and keep it exciting too. Like the more that you reveal in the inbox, like the less like mystery there is if you drive people to your blog. Like for example, imagine the difference between copying and pasting an entire blog post in an email versus having an email that says, check out my top most visited blog post of 2024. Click here to find out what it is. I mean, that's super exciting versus seeing this super long thing in the email. So, anyway, that's my advice. And also, there are a lot of people out there who do need longer format emails. And I think that's fine too, but you have to be conscientious of your audience. Like if you're an author and you have a mailing list that's full of avid readers and say they want to hear their preview of their first chapter, it's okay to put a lot of content in there because that's what people are expecting. But I would say on the whole, especially if you're like e-commerce or blogging or your coach or your primary business is like a multi-channel, like leave the long format content for the other channels where it belongs and use the email as this like really quick, snappy way to drive traffic.
As we wrap up, I feel like there is a theme
Less is
that
more, less
which
is
is less
more.
is more. Less is more. At most 2 fonts, like lots of white space. But I feel like those are metaphors for your business. Lots of white space, 2 fonts. Like in terms of your own messaging, in terms of all of your products, in terms of all of your content, simplified, because what we do is hard enough. And technology, while it does make our lives better, I say this all the time, technology is hard. It's always hard. It's always harder than you think. You are not alone. I talk to so many people who say things like, and they feel bad. I suck at technology. and technology hates me. And like the
Well, it's
amount
that
of
FOMO again. It's the FOMO again that we were talking about, right? This idea that if you're not doing everything all the time with using all the features, you're missing out and you're doing it wrong.
yeah,
I
there's
couldn't
something
disagree
wrong with
more.
you. There's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And I say, I work in technology and it's hard for me. And that I constantly am bitching and moaning about it, going, oh my God, I want to pull my hair out. So I tell people when they tell me this, I go, you are like the 100th person who has said this. It is not you, it is technology. And I feel like once we can take that in and recognize there's nothing, so you and us, like we solve for that, making things easy, and it's still hard. So just know this when you're beating yourself up, going, oh my God, I'm having to watch 30,000 YouTube videos to try and figure something out. I always think this like when I'm flying, and I've got to have like the boarding pass and it's got to be in my wallet on my phone. And I think to myself, like, how do people do this? Like, it's complicated enough for me. Like, how does like my dad, who's in his 80s, do this? Like, he really struggles. Like, so many people struggle because it's hard for everybody. So I feel like any way you can lighten your own load or lighten your customers or readers or users load, you're onto something.
I totally, totally agree. And especially in the inbox too, right? It's like make it easy on yourself. You don't need to put 5 different emails with like 5 weeks worth of content into a single email. You can break up your content a little bit over time so that you're sending out an email newsletter once a week or every other week, which is a best practice to keep your list warm. But keep it short and sweet and give them one delicious little morsel of content over a longer period of time rather than trying to stuff your email and worry about whether you're sending out enough or not. Because even just one small piece of content can be really exciting and engaging. So I think we're aligned
We're
here.
totally
I totally
aligned.
agree.
Well, I have to
Yeah.
say, Rebecca, I'm so happy that I saw you at a conference and stalked you and got you to come on the show.
It's been such a pleasure. I've loved this conversation.
Oh, well, and I'm so glad now that I have you as my friend who lives in Portugal.
Thank you for having me. This was wonderful. And to everyone listening, I'm sorry, but I'm going to be a little bit aggressive about this. But if you do not have an email list, you have to start one. Whether or not you use Flodesk, like we encourage you to use whatever tool works best for your business. We would love for you to try us, but you must do this for your business. You must future proof yourself. It's like in the past, it was very important, and now it's a mandate. So I'm telling you, this is your sign. If you've been looking for a reason, this is it. Please start your list, get that list growing, and watch the magic that can be email transforming your business. So,
Yes, and go check out Flowdesk. Awesome. Well, again,
yes,
thank you for coming on the show.
thank you so much. I really enjoyed this.
I hope you guys like this episode. For me, my biggest takeaway is the idea that simplicity wins. Whether it's in email design, business strategy, or even how we communicate with our audiences. By cutting out the noise, focusing on what truly matters, we can reduce overwhelm and create a better experience for ourselves and our customers. If you're looking to grow your email list fast, grab my 3 freebie prompts at milotree.com/freebie prompts, and then go set it up in MiloTree for free. Not only do we give you a cool AI generated opt-in page that you can share with your people to get them to sign up, we deliver your freebie directly to them. Go kick the tires. See how easy it is to use our software. Head to milotree.com and sign up. And if you know someone who can benefit from this episode, please share it. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. And I will see you here again next week.